Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you the actual software and how we're going to work forward with it. So if we open up this folder, click on this file that says blender.exe. The APG software is built on Blender. So we're going to be working inside that environment. You do not have to know how to use Blender. Don't worry. Okay, so when I open it up, I didn't have to install anything. Notice that. It just opens from within that folder. It's very simple, and we will walk you through from the top all the way down. The first thing I need to figure out is are we going to use the wizard workflow or advanced. Most of you are going to stick with the wizard. That's what I use, unless I really want to customize things, the shape of teeth and whatnot. But in general, the wizard is going to be what the majority of people are going to use. Profile. This is a matter of, do you want a bowl shape, sort of a rounded emergence? Do you want a deep bowl, which is very broad? Imagine you have very shallow placement and you have to really develop the emergence very abruptly. Or hourglass, which is going to be more of a like a wine glass or an hourglass, where it's going to be narrow at the bottom and slowly broaden out for deeper placement. And so you can really say deep, regular, and then fairly shallow. Cone is just straight up, going straight from the cylinder to the anatomic shape. Not my preferred version, but whatever, it's there for those that want it. If I'm using more of a trumpet shape abutment in the tall abutment, as I've explained in previous videos. You'll see that in a minute. So honestly, the bowl will work for me, because if I didn't have that, if I was using a lower profile tie base, I might want to go to the hourglass. So I'm going to stick with the bowl. And now you can pick medium, large, or small, medium obviously being standard. And there's options here where you can adjust the gap, basically how much cement spacer there is between the printed sleeve and the abutment. And if you want it to be more friction fit, you might dial this down a little bit. If you notice that your prints, you just can't get them connected, you might want to dial it up. And that can also come down just to the calibration of your printer. The shoulder offset is if you are using a different tie base from a different manufacturer, Sirona, True Abutment, whatever, and you find that instead of it being 4.5, it's 4.7, you can dial it up a little bit. You can dial it up to 0.21, or actually type in 0.20, and that'll give you an additional 0.2. Or actually, you'd want to, yeah. So that'll get you. It'll allow you to adjust that offset. In fact, yeah, we would want to dial it down to 0.1, because if you have a 0.45 STL, but you need to get it to 0.47, that would be an extra 0.1 on either side. So this is the radius that we're adjusting. Screw channel diameter. If you notice that the screw channel we're creating is too small, or it's too big, you can adjust that. Not too many people are going to mess with that. And then depth of collar. If you want taller collars, taller sleeves than 5 millimeters above the actual collar or margin, whatever you want to call it, then you can, or you can make them shorter. Beyond that, again, most people aren't going to be changing these much, and so I'm going to leave that at 0. And now you know how to adjust these. Most of the time, you're not going to. You're going to click on whichever your emergence is, and that's about it. And honestly, if you're using bowl every time, you're going to skip everything and keep on moving right down. Now, right here, we have the option to pick custom, assorted, posterior, anterior. If I click on anterior, it just selects some of the anterior teeth. Click on posterior, 1 premolar, 1 molar for every single quadrant. And assorted gives us molars, premolars, and 4 anterior teeth, or I guess 8 if you include upper lower. So it gives us a good assortment. This is the one that I recommend, because it's going to give you the canines, the upper central, lower laterals, and then upper first molars and second premolars. You can pretty much restore just about every tooth with what we've got here. Okay? All right, so now we've picked which teeth we want to create. Now we just need to find the abutment. So I'm going to click on this button. I'm going to go to the desktop. This is our file browser. Looks different than other software, but now where is that? I called it downloaded files. Click on this folder. This is the one that we unzipped. Here's the abutment files, and remember, I wanted to use the regular 450. Click on that. click on accept, and now we need to tell it to import the abutment. Give it a second while it loads, and there we have it. Okay? Now notice you don't see anything about the actual connection. This does not look like the abutment that I'm going to be using, except from the collar or margin up. Everything else down here is different, but that doesn't matter. I don't care about anything below this because that's not going to affect what we're creating. All we care about is this diameter and the shape of this chimney. Okay? So I now click Create APG Abutments. Wait for a moment, because it's creating one for all 16 of these teeth, and it is creating an offset, so there's the gap, and there we have it. A little bit of background. I apologize I didn't get to this sooner. So you can navigate the software. If I press the left button, it just clicks on different areas of the screen. If I right click, it allows me to grab objects, which I don't want to do. If I press the wheel button on my mouse, I can toggle around. Okay? If I hold the shift button, I can move everything around. You don't need to know this. You don't need to click on any of that. That's just if you want to look around at everything and you're trying to figure out how to navigate. Now you know. It is not imperative for this workflow to click anywhere in this 3D environment, but again, now you know how to get around if you want to. At this point, I am done. So as a reminder, all I've done is made sure these were correct. All these settings were correct. The teeth I wanted were correct. I imported the abutment and I clicked Create Abutments. Again, should be a 1-minute process when you actually understand what you're doing. Now, I'm just going to export. If I click right here, Export APG Individual, let's go to the desktop. Let's create a folder by clicking right here and Test APG Individual. Okay. And I'm going to say export. Let's call this, I'm going to name it Max 450. I clicked enter, same as clicking export APGs. It's going to take a second while it processes. Now, if I go to my desktop, there is this test APG individual folder, and here are each individual little sleeve. Okay? Everything's created. Tooth number 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 11, and so on and so forth. Now, if I want to print all of them at once, I would say create a card of them. Well, in the software, I can also click export APGs as one file. So I'm going to go into that same folder, and I'm going to say individual or max 450, and then export APGs as one file, as one STL. So now if I look, there's this one right here. There's nothing written after it. It's just the file name I gave it. This time I did put an underscore to separate it. I should have done that after the last one so you could have a separation between the 450 and the number. But again, now you can see that here's an STL. I'm going to load it up in Mesh Mixer just so you can see it. Here it is. This is what's going to print. Okay, that's for the canine. Or open up this, you can see the file size is much bigger, so it might take a little while to open up. That's fine. And here you go. Here's all of them. So now you can get them printed as one full set, as I would say a card, and then you could just pick whichever one you wanted off it. It reminds me of a card of orthodontic brackets, where you just have the full set ready to go. Okay, so that's the workflow for the software. Hopefully that helps. All right.